Let's take a look at some auctions now. Here's an auction for an antique jukebox radio, small jukebox radio. I see right away that this person posted the same information in the subtitle as in the main title. They really had no reason to pay for a subtitle since they didn't add any additional information. As I scroll down, I see the buy it now price is $65, the starting bid is $39.99, and there were no bids on this item. I'm not surprised that there were no bids. I can tell why from the description. As we scroll down, the description's in all caps. It's highly inappropriate to post anything in all capital letters on the internet. This is considered shouting. Based on my experience, an auction that is in all capital letters is almost always going to have some type of a problem. Sellers who post auctions in all capital letters are inexperienced, and they're going to have some type of trouble, such as they may not describe the item accurately, they may not disclose all of the information about it, they may have trouble shipping it, they may pack it poorly when they do ship it, they may delay shipping for no reason, they may be unable to ship, or they may have some other problem. It's generally best to avoid sellers who post in all capital letters. Another problem with this auction is the excessive use of ellipses. People don't normally use ellipses in the way that this person has used ellipses in almost every sentence. This is another warning sign that the seller is generally a problem seller. These indicators are explained more thoroughly in the Scams and Scoundrels book. As we scroll down and we look at the photograph, we see that the photograph is extremely blurry. We have no idea what this item actually is, how large it is, how much it weighs, or even how it works. The seller gives some basic information about the item, but we really can't see the item and we don't know how big it is. They also only included a single blurry photograph. This is why they received no bids. No one could actually bid on it because they didn't know what they were bidding on. If we scroll down a little bit farther, I can see shipping for this item was $67 by priority mail. That sounds extremely high to me, but I'm not sure because I don't know what the weight is or what the size is. This could be a small tabletop jukebox several inches tall, or it could be a full-size jukebox 3 or 4 feet tall. There's no way to know because the seller did not say in their auction, and they did not include any size reference in their photograph. This might have been an interesting item that would have appealed to jukebox collectors, but without proper photographs, proper information, size and weight information, no one could place a bid because they didn't have a clear idea what they would be bidding on. This auction is for a 1960 Space Shot game. I would actually be very interested in this game myself, but I did not bid after looking at the auction itself. The first thing I notice is the seller has a 97.6% feedback rating. That's rather low. I generally don't like to deal with people that have a 98% or lower unless they have a good reason. If I click on their feedback, I see that they have a number of negative ratings. Paid, item never received, sent many emails, little response, will not refund money. I immediately get the impression that this buyer knows what they're talking about and that they can be trusted. This negative comment is very complete. It indicates that they did try to contact the seller, and it appears to be a complete factual account of the events. And on the same page I see another negative comment. 250-mile trip for a broken pin. That means pinball in this case. Seller made no offer to make things right. Apparently the seller did not describe the item right. I also tend to trust this buyer because this information sounds very accurate. The next one says, had to bug him about shipping the item. This really isn't a very good comment. I might discount it if it wasn't for these two negatives that we'd already looked at. As I scroll down, I see some additional neutral comments. Not accurate in condition of machine, in worse condition than stated. If I look farther into this person's feedback, I see another negative comment. No communication, auction ended 7/31, as of 9/1, have never received item. Since there's no response from the seller, the buyer sounds very believable to me. I'm going to take a closer look at the auction now. We can see that there were 5 bids placed on this item, and the final closing price was $700. So I scroll down and I look at the description. It says this, with a lowercase t, is a, one word, 10-cent game in fantastic condition, only a few blemishes, and instead of ending with a period, he uses a space and a comma and a space. The game works great with only the coin mech, then a period. Spring, next sentence starts with a lowercase s. needs to be replaced. Fun to play. Not exactly a sentence. He puts a space after the sentence and before the period, and then another space, and he starts the next sentence with a lowercase. The feedback was enough to put me off of this auction, but the description clinched it. I would never buy from this person. Based on their feedback, they have a tendency not to ship items, and they also don't describe items accurately. When looking through the description, I see a number of warning signs. All of these warning signs are outlined in the Scams and Scoundrels book. Things like bad grammar and unusual punctuation are not only signs of inexperienced sellers, they're signs of scammers. I don't have any reason to believe this person's a scammer, but it's quite clear that they're inexperienced and they're going to be a problem seller, so I would never purchase from this person. They also say in their description it may take a couple of weeks to ship. This is really not acceptable. It should not take 2 weeks to ship an item. If someone's going to offer an item for sale, they need to ship it in a reasonable amount of time. 2 weeks is not at all reasonable. I also noticed that in his description, he only describes the item. He doesn't say anything about shipping terms or payment. As I scroll down, the only payment accepted is money order or cashier's check. This person does not accept PayPal. That's another warning sign, and another reason that I would not do business with this person. If I sent this person a money order or cashier's check and they decided not to ship the item, I would not have any simple recourse to recover my money. Since they do not accept PayPal, that is another warning sign. When I look under shipping and handling, it says check item description and payment instructions or contact the seller for details. But in the description, there is no information about the cost of shipping. This person might have charged $50 for shipping or $300. You have no way to know exactly what they're charging for shipping. It does say a crate for $100 and ship with Forward Air. It does not say what the actual shipping rate is, so the buyer knows that they have to pay the actual price plus $100 for crating plus whatever the shipping amount is. If this seller decides that the final auction price is not high enough, they can increase the shipping amount. If this person was looking to collect $1,000 for this game and it only closed at $700, they could charge $300 or $400 in shipping. If the buyer did not want to pay that amount of shipping, then the seller can cancel the auction. This is why you should never buy from anyone who does not disclose shipping in advance of the auction. Here's another auction. This is an auction I would consider a crazy auction. This is for a league bowler game from the 1950s. If we scroll down, we can see this is $300 and there are 0 bids. The seller has a 99.5% positive rating with 382 feedback. This is fairly good, but once we scroll down and look at the description, it makes me question whether or not I want to buy from this seller. This auction makes the seller look psychotic. They start off with large red letters, and then the size and the color changes for no reason. They also change to all uppercase at the bottom. They immediately start off by saying, "Sorry, no PayPal" on this item. I prefer to deal with sellers who accept PayPal, but it's understandable for some sellers not to accept PayPal on high-priced items. If this is the case, this should have been stated at the end of the listing and not in the first line. If the buyer had any problems with this item, it's very unlikely that the seller could communicate well enough to resolve any issues. From the seller's description, it looks like they would be a difficult person to deal with. This seller doesn't know basic grammar or net etiquette. That generally indicates a problem seller, and I avoid such sellers. After looking over everything in this auction, even though the seller has good feedback, I would not bid on this item. If I could pick this item up locally at a really good bargain price, I might be interested, but only if I could see it before I paid for it. I would never trust this seller enough to send them money without seeing the item first. Here's an example of a bad auction. The seller's posted a very rare game. He's listed the price at $100,000. The actual value is nowhere near this price. As we scroll down, we see that there's no description. All he says is, "All original Rockola baseball arcade game 1939. He does not say if it's complete, or if it works, or give any additional information about its condition. The condition's critical in determining the value. He also only shows one photograph, and there are no detailed shots and no close-ups of the actual figures or the condition of the machine. This person received 7 offers, but they never actually sold the item. This auction looks to me like it was engineered for an off-eBay sale. Dishonest sellers often try to sell outside of eBay. This way they do not have to risk any negative feedback. They will often post extremely low or extremely high prices. At this extremely high price, this person could not expect anyone to use the buy it now option. This person was not running an auction. They listed a single buy it now price, or they allowed people to make a best offer. This seller depended on interested bidders to use the best offer feature. This allowed him to contact them directly. He could then make an outside of eBay offer. It's very possible that this person offered to sell the same item to all 7 people who made offers. This seller may have contacted all 7 people and offered to sell directly to them without actually shipping anything. This is a very common scam. This is an example of a very bad auction. You should never bid on an auction like this. First thing we notice is that the title is Space Invaders Arcade Game Needs Work. And then for the subtitle, it says FX or Parts. I'm not exactly sure what that means. I suppose the person meant fix, or to be fixed, or for parts, but that's not what they said in their subtitle. If we look in the Meet the Seller area, we see that this person has 0 feedback, and the icon next to their name shows that they are a new member. This is very unusual for a 0 feedback person to offer something for sale. Generally, 0 feedback people will purchase items first and gain experience on eBay before offering an item for sale. As I scroll down to view the description, I see the only information included is needs work, or you can UED for parts. The person does not give any additional information. They do not say what is wrong with this game. They do not say if it's missing any parts. And most importantly, they do not include any photographs. This is a good example of a completely inexperienced seller. They give no information, no photograph, and they have 0 feedback. You should never buy from anyone that has 0 feedback. This is another example of a bad auction. The person starts off bidding at $100 on an item that's very expensive, a forklift. But they also have a secret reserve price. The Don't Bid on It book explains why you should never use a reserve price with any auction, and why you should not bid on auctions that do have reserve prices. This user's feedback score is 96.8. That's also rather low. If we look at the item location, it's shown as the Great Blue Yonder. You should never trust sellers who hide their location. Listing a false item location like this makes it look like the seller wants to hide. They do not want people to know where they actually are. This is a common sign of scammers or dishonest sellers. When we scroll down to the description, we see that this person types in all lowercase, and the entire description is one long continuous sentence. This person does not follow the normal rules of English grammar. Auctions that use extremely poor grammar, unusual punctuation, or are listed in all caps are generally problem auctions. These usually indicate inexperienced sellers who can be difficult to deal with or may not describe the items accurately. These features are also very common in fraudulent auctions. Scammers in other countries, such as Romania, Nigeria, and Indonesia, do not speak English as their native language. Instead, they will use software or websites to translate their language into English. They will then post fake auctions using hijacked accounts. These auctions stand out because of the extremely poor grammar and unusual punctuation. Such auctions should always be avoided. There's a great deal more information on this in the Scams and Scoundrels book. Here's an example of a bad auction. The person uses a combination of colors that makes their auction extremely hard to read. They also used images that were linked from their website, but their website's not working, so all of their photographs show up as broken image links. You should never trust any seller who attempts to make a deal outside of eBay. We see that this is a 1947 Chicago Coin Basketball Champ game. This is a very rare game and it's highly collectible. These commonly sell in the thousands and tens of thousands of dollars. But this seller starts his bid at $7. As we scroll down, the first line says, "Please contact me only," and then he gives his email address. This is always a warning sign. You should never bid or even contact a seller who has such a statement in their auction. This is a very common sign of a hijacked account. Scammers will hijack someone's account by stealing their user ID and password. They will then post fraudulent auctions attempting to sell expensive items. They want to trick people into contacting them outside of eBay, and they especially do not want people to use the eBay contact member link. The contact link is in the seller section where it says Ask Seller a Question. If you use this link, the message will go to the email address associated with the owner of the account. The scammer cannot easily change this email address, otherwise the owner will receive a notification that it has been changed. Generally, scammers will not change the default email for an account. Instead, they will post a notice like this, demanding contact at an email address which uses a free mail service. As we read further, we see that this person says to contact them before bidding, or else I will remove your bid. This does not make any sense for an honest seller. Honest sellers do not make such threats in their auctions. This auction is definitely a scam. Honest sellers will never make such a statement in their auction. He goes on to say, I am asking only $1,500. That's another clear sign that this is a scam auction. This item is worth a lot more than $1,500. Also, he starts bidding at $7. An honest seller will never post an auction and then list a buy it now price in the auction for people who contact him directly. Also, you'll notice that the dollar sign is in the wrong place. Unusual use of punctuation and bad grammar are common signs of scammer auctions. This auction may be an inexperienced seller, or it could be a scammer. Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference. The first thing I notice is that the item is $1,500. That's a very expensive item. When we look under the seller information, we see that this person has 0 feedback and they're a new member. It's extremely unusual for a new member with 0 feedback to post an expensive item. This is a very common tactic of scammers. They will set up a number of fake accounts, post expensive items, collect money, and then disappear. You should never purchase an expensive item from anyone who has a 0 feedback rating or from anyone who has the new user icon by their name. As I look down, I see the item location is listed as United States. This person does not list their true location, they only give a general country. This is another common tactic of scammers. Scammers do not want people to pick up the item. Scammers want to receive their funds by mail or electronically. Since the scammer may not actually possess the item, they cannot have people coming by to pick it up. As we scroll down and we look at the description, this is another tip-off that this is an auction to be avoided. The entire description says, Dr. Dude and his excellent X-ray pinball machine. This auction gives no information about the machine itself, no information about the condition, or whether or not it even works. The only photograph included is extremely small and it shows no details. On items like this, especially for a pinball machine, the condition of the playfield and the artwork are critical in determining the value. This person gave no detailed photographs and they did not describe the item. Even if it were priced lower, I would never bid on this item. This person did not include any information about the item. They do not offer pickup. They give no shipping information. They hide their location. They have 0 feedback and they're a new member. These are all warning signs. You should avoid such auctions. Here's another example of a bad auction. This person used a distracting background image. It's better to keep your auctions clean and simple. Reading through this description, I see some immediate warning signs. It says, at the beginning, this machine was placing in a bus area and we were playing at the low price of 10 cents. Now this machine is fiating by electricity and we don't have to put any money in it. The goat of this game is to pilot the helicopter. I don't really have to go any farther. I think you get the idea. This is another example of an auction to avoid. Sellers who are unable to communicate clearly in their auctions are going to be problem sellers. If there's any problem with the item, it's unlikely the seller would be able to communicate effectively enough to resolve that problem. Here's an example of a deceptive auction. The title says, Authentic Top Designer Purse Handbag, New Wholesale List. From the title, it sounds like they're offering a top designer handbag at a wholesale list price. If I scroll down, I see a buy it now price of 99 cents and a stock photo of a purse. The low price is an immediate tip-off. This item also offers free shipping. 99-cent items with free shipping are always scams. No one is going to pay the listing fees on an auction like this only to make a few cents profit. The person who listed this item is not actually selling the purse that is shown. They're selling a list of wholesale companies that will sell items at a discount. The auction is intentionally deceptive. They want to trick people into buying their list for 99 cents. This company, or companies they have affiliations with, are the companies listed in the wholesale lists. The prices may not be true wholesale prices, and the items offered may actually be counterfeit. This person is expecting to sell this item for 99 cents and then make more money later by selling counterfeit or non-existent items to the people who buy the list. This allows the person on eBay to avoid negative feedback. On eBay, they're selling a list. The scam occurs outside of eBay, so the buyers cannot leave negative feedback. As we scroll down, we see the auction listing has a number of designer brand names, and it again says, Designer Handbag Wholesale List, this is the real deal. Again, they also show the photograph of the purse at the bottom. This auction is not actually selling a purse, it's selling a list of companies. You'll notice this one also has a note to eBay staff. This listing is 100% in compliance with your compilation policy. Any auction that has to give a notice saying that it's in compliance, or saying that it's legal, or saying that it's trustworthy should not be trusted.